So on up. So just
Okay, seeing that it is 1 o'clock here and to the far side of Thunder Bay, we'll start this meeting. Okay, first thing, if there's any declaration of anyone has a pecuniary interest, you may provide it now or at any time during the meeting. The second is the adoption of the agenda. We'll do our declaration now. Okay. All right, thank you. Well, that's the first time that's happened. Now I'm totally confused. Okay, as for the adoption of the agenda, we have a request to move item 7 up until right after item 2. That's to allow the Cornerstone person to make the presentation because they have another commitment. So please note that on your scorecard. And as well, we have 3 consent items, 12, 13, 14. Does anybody wish any of those items discussed? Okay, seeing nobody, those items are consent items. They'll just remain for information for you. Okay, so with that, could I have someone please move that the agenda for the October 16th, 2023 Board of Director meetings be adopted as presented with amendment? Janet, seconded by Roy, all in favor? Carried. Okay, then we have the approval of the minutes. The motion is that the minutes of the Board of Director meeting held on September 11th, 2023 be received and approved as presented. Do we have a mover for that? Yes, Helen, right? Seconded. Okay, Dina. Okay, is there any discussion concerning the minutes? Seeing none, we'll put it through a vote. All in favor? Carried. Our next motion is the receipt of the minutes from the Finance and Administration Committee meeting of June 22nd, 2023, which is page 9. Does not require a motion. That's why I can't find it in the sheet here. Okay, so we have those receipts of those minutes. Everybody's had an opportunity to look at them. Any questions arising out of those minutes? Seeing none, we'll skip on to the presentation on pay scales, reports 335723. Yes, you're having it first? Okay. So I got my order mixed up. So number 3 is the employee presentation, implementation of the HR downloads. Tina Ranito. And Tina is nervous, so, you know, heckle her if you can.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tina Franito. I'm the finance assistant here at the MVCA. I'm here today to briefly introduce you to HR Downloads, the online cloud-based human resources software that we currently use. So today's topic of discussion are going to be where we were in utilizing HR Downloads, what has been done over the past year, the highlights of the program, what our next steps will be, ensuring that we use HR Downloads to its fullest capacity, and lastly, any audience input. Okay, so where we were. So previously, HR Downloads was not being fully utilized and has since, after a few updates, become more robust in its capabilities. In the past, new employees were added to the program and new hire packages were assigned to new staff members. The new hire package currently consists of 12 courses, with some examples being Occupational Health and Safety Awareness Training for Workers in Ontario, the AODA Customer Service Standards Training, otherwise known as the Accessibility for Ontario with Disabilities Act, if you were not sure, the Respect in the Workplace Training, WHMIS Refresher Training, Safe Lifting Training, Conflict Resolution Training, IT risk and cybersecurity training for employees, and several others. Various training had occurred over the prior years. However, the employee certificates and other documents of completion found in their respective employee paper files did not match what was reflected, nor were they all entered into HR downloads. So what has been done? Over the past year, some changes have been made in HR downloads, from company updates to website and the available modules and layout of the software, as well as the finance department has ensured that all employees had their correct corresponding manager tied to their employment profiles. The management team here has been using HR downloads for training purposes and taking such courses as diffusing hostile customers, working remotely during COVID-19 and going forward, workplace violence and harassment training for employers and supervisors in Ontario. Various standards operating procedures have been added to the library of available materials and have been tied to any respective employees that need to sign off on various policies. All previously completed training courses from the employee paper files have since been added into HR downloads to the corresponding employee. And all paper certificates were uploaded into HR downloads to the respective staff profiles. So, highlights of the program. HR Downloads is an all-in-one human resources tool. The program is broken down into two main sections of modules, one being HR Drive and the other training. HR Downloads is a great source for any news and government legislations. It offers a variety of training materials, both from an expansive list, and one can create custom courses. It offers a multitude of available reports, and one can also create custom reports to meet the needs of a given task. The staff at HR Downloads are very helpful and knowledgeable and can correspond both through online chat and via telephone call. And various files and certificates can be uploaded into the program. A few more key features to help paint a picture of what HR Downloads is all about and truly making this an all-in-one human resources program. You can see overdue assignments. Typically, this is when staff have not completed their prescribed training materials. You can see new release notes from HR Downloads. You can read HR related articles. You can see a chart version of all assigned training materials and the progression over a given year, a specific month, or a date range. You can see stats on employees, such as how many staff are active versus on leave, or if their profile is incomplete, which is typically when a profile has not been activated fully. And in saying that, you can send reactivation emails, which is typically for new hires, and much more. So over the next few months and into the new year, we plan on improving the overall flow of human resources at the MVCA. We aim to use HR Downloads to its fullest capacity, and we'll be creating tailored reporting to assist various projects and tasks. We will be streamlining all employee profiles to show full, accurate employment timeline information. We'll be keeping on top of expiry dates relating to training courses that need to be renewed. And lastly, we will be training staff on how to navigate the site, especially since there have been changes to the website over the past year, and the fact that many staff do not often go into HR Downloads since they started or completing their assigned training materials. So, after having heard and watched all that I just mentioned about HR Downloads, do any of you have any questions or thoughts that they'd like to have addressed?
I have.
Thank you. Does this program feed into payroll also?
That's an excellent question, and at the moment it does not.
Is there potential for it to automate payroll?
I believe it's two separate programs at the moment.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Any other questions? No, I don't see anybody with their hand up. Okay.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for gathering and listening to the presentation on all things HR Downloads. Again, my name is Tina Fernado, the finance assistant here at the MVCA. Take care.
Thank you, Tina. That was a great presentation and nice and quick. Thanks. Okay, our next item is, as indicated, we're moving up the pay scales. Now, this is an in-camera session. So, all right. That's all right with me. Okay, I asked Joanne to hang for a minute in case there was anything else. Don't really see anything. Sally, do you have any closing comments?
Did you deal with the motion? Sorry? Yes.
So any final comments, Sally, based on your first? No? If not, we can let Joanne go. Okay, Joanne, thank you again very much and nice seeing you again. Take care.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.
So based on our discussion, I have the motion that says that we approve the updated salary scale as presented to the Finance Administration Committee in June 2023. And we approve the phased implementation as described in the June 2023 report. Do I have someone to motion that? Okay, moved by John, seconded by Bev. All in favor? It is carried. Yeah, sorry. One of these days, yeah. My name's Fred. All right, we're moving into watershed condition report by Jay North. Yeah, I've got that written down.
Perfect. So we've had an interesting summer season. We've gone from very wet to very dry. We have had below average rainfall for the last 2 months, which has caused some lower than normal flows throughout the watershed. But most of the lakes have maintained normal levels. This is with the help of the rain we had earlier in the season. Flows in the main river have currently been slowly increasing. We do expect flows to pick up more once more water from the drawdowns in the upper lakes and other tributaries have reached the lower half of the system. And we hopefully will see more rain in the coming weeks to recharge some of the smaller tributaries that are pretty dry right now. So here is the fall drawdown schedule that we follow every year and where we are currently sitting with each lake. Drawdowns on most of the upper lakes are underway. Drawdowns on Shabamika, Pine, and Summit are now complete. And we are currently drawing down Lake Kashawakamak, Mississauga, and Big Gull as of last week. And we will be starting to draw down the Carlton Place Dam later this week, hopefully. Water levels are expected to drop as they typically would over the next 2 months. The drawdown on Mazenal Lake will start as normal in early November to account for boat traffic during the hunting season. And then until then, it will be stabilized at normal historical levels. Crotch Lake level is sitting at average for this time of year. The initial drawdown on the upper lakes have had no impact yet on the water levels on Crotch Lake. But we should start seeing a slow build in levels later this week. OPG will most likely start operating the dam in the next few weeks to refill the lake from the discharge from the upper lakes. And long range forecasts in the fall look fairly good. It looks like we're going to be seeing normal temperatures and normal precip. If this does take place, we should have no problem reaching our targets before freeze up. Any questions? Yeah.
I just found it interesting that you said the levels of Crotch Lake are at normal levels. I was just there last week and I've never seen it so low.
It all depends on the year. With our rule curve, it's at a normal. It's kind of right at the bottom end of where we hold it during the summer, and then before we hit all that water from up top. So it's kind of in that lull. So it is the bottom end, but it's not below average for this time of year. We're right on target. In normal years, when usually you get wet Septembers, we usually don't get this down this much. It's usually not possible. So that's why we usually see a higher level at this time of year, but this is kind of where we normally see our rule curve sit. Any other questions? Perfect, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, now we're going to the GM update report.
So this was quite a long report because it's a busy time of year for us, the summer months. So you see some photos there of some great work that the folks have been doing both at our dams and as well at our conservation areas. Thank you, Jen. A couple of other things I just wanted to highlight. On page 20 of your package, we talk about the Clyde River floodplain mapping project. So this is something that we're likely to go out for a public open house on in November. So municipalities, in which Clyde flows, will be connecting with your municipalities, your staff, and potentially reaching out to do a presentation to your councils. With the goal of finalizing floodplain mapping and coming back to the board here at the December meeting. So this is something that we're actively working on right now and hope to conclude before the end of this year. Another project I want to highlight to you is the IT network project that we are actually meeting with the consultants tomorrow afternoon to review their updated report. And this is an important one because it does have implications for our short and long-term budget. This building and almost all of the IT assets in it are at least 10 years old. So there are some areas where we're requiring to do upgrades, and this review has been a strategic look at what we invest in and why, and our approach to managing certain IT needs going forward, because as I'm sure many of you are aware, there's so much available on the cloud now. The question of whether you invest in hardware and the acquisition of software is a big question for organizations, including ones like ours. Another one I wanted to highlight to you is the KMP Trail. So discussions with the 3 counties is not moving as quickly as we had hoped. So we have proactively reached out to the Snow Road Snowmobile Club and sent them the last contract that we had signed with them for them to, operate on the trail. And our hope is that they'll sign that back. You may recall that they had requested, this is the contract that we had renegotiated with them back in 2021 with legal input on both sides. Their legal counsel changed last year, and they came back with a bunch of unacceptable changes. And so we put back to them the contract that we had assigned back in 2021. Our hope is that we can get that signed off before the snow season. On the next page, I just wanted to highlight the Carleton Place Dam public safety measures. So the boom has gone in, and you can see in the photo there, it looks fantastic. It was a huge piece of work, and kudos to the, Euro and his team for overseeing that. There are still some additional works that are going to be completed this fall related to safety. So a new fence, gate, railings, and that sort of thing. So you can continue to expect work there. And you can see the study tour group that we took there. It was a really terrific study tour, afternoon, highlighting to them all sorts of things that MVCA is doing. And we got a lot of good kudos and thanks for that work that we did with the FCM. The next thing, the Walk for Wenjack, I just wanted to highlight that to you that so throughout the month of October, we're promoting the Walk for Wenjack, which is in support of the Gord Downey Foundation. And there is an event planned this Sunday. If you're interested, I'm babysitting a dog and we'll be there with the pup. Anyway, if you want to share on your social media, that would be terrific. Also this weekend on Saturday, there is a farm tour highlighting work that's being done by our Alice Lanark program. So this is work with farmers primarily in terms of site restoration work and the development of wetlands. And then lastly, I wanted to speak to the Conservation Ontario meeting that Paul and I attended at the end of September. So one of the key items was we approved their 2024 work plan and budget. So just a couple of highlights for folks. Their proposed budget for 2024 is just over 1.5 million. And our contribution to that I have here is proposed at 28,722. So out of the 1.5, we contribute just under 30,000 per year. Some of the things that they have in their work plan is continuing to support CAs as we move to implement all the regulatory changes, many of which kick in either at the beginning of or are due by the end of 2024. So 2024 is going to be a very busy year for all the CAs trying to meet the new regulatory requirements, and they've definitely been instrumental in helping us as we transition from current state to what our new regulatory environment is. On that, I should just mention that last week, I think, I can't recall, no, it's in the next report, but officially now the City of Ottawa has also signed off on the Category 2 and 3 agreement, so, which is good news. So we're good to develop a new budget based upon the new methodology. Happy to take any questions regarding the GM update.
Any questions for Sally? Okay. Seeing none. we will move on to item number 6, which is the execution of category 2 and 3 agreements and the status of that. And there is a motion for that. Do we get the presentation first?
So as I mentioned, City of Ottawa Council just approved executing an agreement with the MVCA and the other two CAs in its jurisdiction last week. And it was the last remaining municipality that we were waiting to hear from. So we're good to execute all the agreements. Due to the value of most of them, they wouldn't normally come here for approval, but the City of Ottawa's is particularly high, as you can imagine. So this resolution seeks permission for myself and the chair to execute the agreements on the board's behalf.
Okay, so the resolution is be resolved that the Board of Director authorizes the chair and general manager to execute agreements with member municipalities for delivery of category 2 and category 3 services. Do I have someone to move that? Okay, moved by Janet, seconded by, and I can't read the name again, I should know it. Mary Lou, sorry, Mary Lou. Okay, all in favor? Or any discussion? All in favor, yeah, it's carried. So our next items are information or reports arising from Finance and Administration Committee. Number 7's been dealt with. Number 8 is the water and sewer connection. Now, I appreciate that you have a conflict of interest, but we're not going into camera with this, so I don't know if it's necessary for you to leave or not, but okay, that's fine. No, Mr. Lowry. Lowry.
Okay, good afternoon. Earlier this year in July, the board authorized a payment of $251,500 to the town of Carleton Place in fulfillment of the 2012 development permit agreement for MVCA's share of the cost to extend municipal services to the property line, which is just out back. There's a section of snow fence around it that signifies where those services now are located. Since then, we've had discussions with the town and they've indicated to us that they disagree with the methodology used to calculate the above amount. And then since that meeting, we've also received a draft from Kavanaugh Construction of a multilateral agreement that would supersede the 2012 agreement with the town of Carleton Place. So just a little background on the 2012 agreement itself. So it prescribed that the amount to be paid by MVCA to the town for connection to municipal services was based on an equal amount to the current difference in appraised value between serviced and unserviced land applied to the property. So accordingly, MVCA retained Rivington Commercial Appraisers. They were the original appraisal of the property that was based of how we got to the original number that was in the 2012 agreement. So at that time, unserviced value of property based on its current size of 5.03 acres and the current use as institutional, the difference in value per acre was $50,000 per acre for a total of $251,000. So upon review of the Rivington report, the town felt that the methodology should have been like for like in comparison to the original report that was done in 2010. So at that point, the land here was somewhat of a what-if scenario. It wasn't finalized in terms of how much was going to be bought. So it was based on 4.10 acres, and it was done based on vacant commercial land. So the town wanted to see like for like, so apples to apples essentially. So we went back to Rivington and asked them to revise their appraisal for a like-to-like based on what the town had asked for. So based on the updated appraisal, so at 5.03 acres, which again is the current size, and at vacant commercial land, it yielded a difference in acre of $70,000. So if you look at the table, it's included in the report there, it shows the various different sizes of land and the the different values associated with, again, with the different zoning types that could be construed for the land here. So the one that MVCA had looked at is in the bottom right corner. So current land use, which is zoned institutional, and the current land size, which is 5.03 acres, which comes to $251,000. So in short, there's a cost difference of almost $150,000 depending on which avenue that I guess you could go down in this endeavor. But it's also over $100,000 difference in the amount the board had already approved, and what the town is suggesting could be payable. So additionally to that, on July 13th, MVCA staff received a proposed agreement by Kavanaugh Construction that, if executed, would have MVCA pay Kavanaugh Construction just north of $483,000 for the cost share agreement, again, to get the services to where they are. So at that point, staff figured it best to go out and seek some legal advice. So the Coles Notes version of the legal advice is the 2012 development agreement would remain valid and enforceable. That MVCA wouldn't necessarily have any obligation to Kavanaugh Construction, nor should enter into that agreement. The Rivington appraisal that assumed the current land size of 5.03 acres and the current use of institutional is the most accurate way of determining the current difference in appraised value between service and unserviced land applied to the property, which again goes back to the wording in the 2012 agreement. And then, so again, so an update in the process. So we're still working with JP2G Engineering. We're at the stage now where we have drawings to be able to get the servicing from the property line into our building. We just need to comment on those drawings from our end, at which time will we be able to receive a cost estimate, which will also help us get to a little more of a better understanding of what the actual costs are going to be to get this building into a fully serviced state. But based on current circumstances and timelines, it's likely that the project will have to be pushed into 2024 for a firm completion. But ideally in this situation, we still want to be, a valued member of the local community and are willing to be partners in this. And we would just like to come to the best outcome here for all of us.
Okay, any questions? Okay, I'm going to read the resolution and perhaps that'll spark some. Be it resolved that the Board of Directors direct staff to seek agreement with the town of Carleton Place on interpretation and application of the 2012 development agreement and return to the board with a recommended course of action, and inform Carleton Place that the MVCA will not enter into any new or additional cost sharing agreements related to the extension of municipal services to MVCA property. Did I have a mover? Janet, second. Bev. Okay, any discussion on that? Roy?
Just to clarify, so I get this straight in my head. This original 250,000, that's just the sharing cost of getting utilities out there.
Correct.
MVCA still has to pay for connection.
Correct.
Are they going to allow us to connect into, so you're going ahead to getting tenders on the connection?
Well, at this point, we're just working with the engineering firm to get the planning in order to be able to be prepared to go to a tendering process.
Right.
That's as far as it's gone to this point. I think we'll probably need to sort out the cost sharing agreement.
That's
before
what
that
I'm
moves
asking.
forward, yes.
That will have to be done first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Yes, Glenn.
Thank you. I wonder if we could get an idea of what are the potential next steps in resolving the disagreement with the town about the costs here.
So I've been in discussions with Diane Smithson throughout this process, and she and I have agreed that, if the board gave me direction, I would sit down with her and we'd work through the numbers and come to a conclusion on what we felt was fair between the two organizations. And then, pardon me, she's the CAO at Carleton Place.
And so the option of giving you that direction, Sally, would be after we continue some of the further investigation. Is that right?
So I think that the town itself is actively reviewing the proposal from Kavanaugh. The town's in a position, as I understand it, that there wasn't a pre-existing agreement for the extension of services. And we have one with the town, but I don't think there was necessarily for the work associated with the landowner that, you know, Kavanaugh has put in the invoice for, as it were. So they're reviewing the numbers. We've started to look at the numbers that have been submitted by the contractor. And I would work with her to determine whether or not, you know, we felt there was grounds for us to alter the amount and try to meet them part way.
Okay. And are we the only landowner affected by this, or there's others that are subject to the same dispute or disagreement?
The town itself has land that is being serviced by, or is currently now serviced by the extension. And there's an adjacent landowner as well that's affected.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Paul,
Yeah, Richard?
so that motion, I don't know, I want to hear it again, but it sort of sounds like we're talking out of both sides of our mouth. Like, our legal advice is that we have grounds to stand on, and that the 2012 agreement should be good. And in the motion, it sort of says that, but then it says about negotiating. Well, why wouldn't we just be sticking to our guns? Or maybe read the motion again, Paul. If you could read the motion again, I can't see it.
Okay, I'll read the motion again and perhaps we'll answer. And if that doesn't answer it, we'll have to move in camera. Okay, so it's to seek agreement with the town of Carleton Place on interpretation and application of the 2012 development agreement and return to the board with a recommended course of action. And inform Carleton Place that the MVCA will not enter into any new or additional cost sharing agreement related to the extension of municipal servicing to MVCA property.
So the second part is talking about Kavanaugh's then.
Yes,
Is-
we have an agreement in place. We're just not entering into any new ones.
Okay. Well, maybe you should go in camera because I think Sally should have a sense of how the board feels about this negotiations, but it's wherever you think.
Okay, I'm being told. Yeah, no, it's green now. I'm being told that if we're going to have that discussion, we need to move in camera. So could I get someone to please move to go into camera? Okay, Helen, seconded by, okay, Mary Lou. Okay, we're in camera. Could I ask that staff and that Stuart, okay. Okay, well, we will take a vote. All in favor? Seeing the hands up, it is carried. Thank you. Helen first, and it was Bev that seconded it originally. Okay, our next item is the K&P report. I appreciate that the landowners are online. However, as we have been discussing the last 3 or 4 days, there has been a letter provided to us. And We've already had a delegation at the Finance Administration Committee on this, which a number of us sit on, and it's actually Finance and Administration that's bringing this forward, so we will be not accepting any public delegations. Please proceed.
Thank you. Excuse me. So MVCA has been in a longstanding dispute with the owners of a property adjacent to the KMP Trail in North Frontenac, east of Wilbur. So the matter went before a judge in 2017, and the court judgment was in MVCA's favor, including an award of costs. While MVCA has complied with all the elements of the settlement agreement, landowners continue to refuse and undertake any prescribed actions. So in the hopes of moving things forward, in early July, staff reached out to legal counsel to kind of get a sense of where things were. We were informed by our legal counsel that the landowner was contesting the survey MVCA had prepared, and that was submitted to the registry office of Frontenac County. Furthermore, the landowners were intending to retain their own surveyor and the property having, excuse me, to have the property surveyed over the following couple of months. Since then, staff have learned that the survey has not been completed and there is no target date for the completion of the survey. So in order to resolve any concerns regarding the validity of the survey that was completed and to minimize further delays, legal counsel has advised that we return to court to be able to resolve the matter.
Okay, thank you. And I think we've had the letter that was provided to us. There are a number of perhaps alternate facts provided in the letter. And as such, it is a matter that's going to have to take the legal route for it to be sorted out one way or the other. This matter's been ongoing for quite some time, so appreciate your report. And do we have any questions? Okay, seeing none, it's resolved that the board of directors authorize staff to return to court regarding the KMP Wilbur property dispute. Could I have a motion? Okay, Janet, second. Roy, all in favor? It is carried. Thank you. Our next item is the budget control report, year-end outlook. Stacy, you're on.
So, as per the budget control report that was submitted, overall, we're on track with the year to date. Planning is continuing to not be as down as we had anticipated. We're also still finding that we had a number of vacancies at different times throughout the year, so we're seeing savings in costs, in salary costs. We did do a year-end projection based on kind of from August to the balance of the year, how we think things are playing out. We are under about 110,000 that we're projecting. Most of that is coming, well, all are from salary savings, and then some increased revenues as well. So user fees on permits, et cetera, are higher than we anticipated. Interest revenue is significantly higher than we had anticipated because rates have continued to climb, which if you're earning interest is positive. Having to pay interest, not so much. Which is overall is leading to not needing to use roughly 300,000 in reserves that we'd anticipated. So looking like a positive year. On the capital side, we've seen some savings, and we're also looking at a couple of projects that are likely being pushed to next year. So there's about 400,000 on the capital side that we're not spending this year, but will likely just flow into next year. The reserves, in line with that, about 660,000 roughly, that we're not using out of the reserves this year that will remain in the balances to carry forward. But again, there's work anticipated in future years for that. Some specifics within the budget. if you're looking at the individual departments, flood forecast warning and dam ops, the key differences there is really salary allocations. And that's within a number of areas, admin as well. We've changed some of the allocations that we were doing after budget once we put in the new timesheet system. Insurance overall came in significantly under budget, which affected both the dam ops and property management. On the property management, there's been, again, the insurance, but there's also been a lot of looking at efficiencies and savings. Last year, when we developed the budget, we relied heavily on just historical. The property manager was new, and things have been really streamlined this year, so we just haven't spent as much. And overall, again, so just overall a decreased use of reserves as one of the key things out of that. Did anyone have specific
Any
questions?
questions for Stacy? Seeing none, we received this information. Thank you. Okay, our next item is number 11, the cost of service study report.
So as most members would be aware, we had to do a fairly detailed cost analysis in analyzing which of our programs and services are category 1, 2, and 3. And the new regulation requires us to look very hard at those costs, such that the cost to our municipalities through the municipal levy is the difference based upon what we receive in terms of revenues from other sources, such as grants, contributions, but also fees. So we wanted to undertake a fee review this year, but you may recall the province imposed a fee freeze this year for our planning and regulations, which constitutes the largest amount of our fee-based revenue. So instead, what we did was we started down this road by doing a cost of service study. The cost of service study broke down each of those activities or programs that we can do cost recovery into actual hourly, allocations of time by individuals in the organization to calculate how much is it actually costing us on average to deliver this program or service. Now, we had hoped to make use of our new timesheet system to do this. And unfortunately, we ran into some challenges with that, which we are actively looking to resolve. But the results that you have on page 3 of the report are a preliminary indication of what we're finding when we look at the actual costs versus what we're charging for planning and reg reviews. So you can see that in the third column there, the average cost per application, and we've divided into the different types versus what the estimated fee charge was going to be in 2024. I'll just note that our 2 partner CAs operating in the city of Ottawa have already pre-approved a 3% increase, and the norm has been always that the 3 operate in lockstep because we all operate in the city of Ottawa and they want a consistent rate across their jurisdiction. So that's what we've identified there. So you can see the cost recovery rate based upon this preliminary analysis ranges from quite low as 29% to, as high as 76%. Now, I again want to caution that these are based upon estimates as opposed to our timesheets. And our next step is going to be to make sure that people are completing their timesheets correctly. That was part of the problem. Also that the categories that we have on the timesheets are organized exactly the way we need them. So that's part and parcel of implementing a new system. You need to try it out and see where it needs to be altered. But what it does point to, though, is that even with doing our timesheet analysis, assuming these are, ballpark correct based upon people's experience, we really need to look at our business processes and what we're doing, how we're doing it, and see how we compare to others. Are the times that we're taking, to complete these reviews and recognize it can vary considerably. Obviously, just simply the distance to travel to Addington Highlands or North Frontenac is significantly greater than, to here in Carleton Place. So there are those sorts of variables that need to be taken into consideration. But regardless, it's imperative that we look at how we do what we do and that we're doing it as efficiently as possible. The next thing is then, once we've conducted that review and hopefully identified areas where we can improve and streamline our processes where possible, is then to come back to the board and look at, okay, net our activities of what we've done. How are we still doing in terms of cost recovery? And is there an appetite to alter the fees? Because we are cognizant that within all of your municipalities, fee is a point of contention, particularly within the development community. And so we need to be looking at, what your organizations are doing. I know some jurisdictions have done cost recoveries, analyses to see how much is being subsidized by the tax dollar. In our case, it's the municipal levy, but, certainly to go to the pool in Carleton Place, for example, is being subsidized by tax dollars. So it's a decision we recognize all municipalities have to make, and we'll have to make a similar, kind of review and decision going forward on how much you feel these sorts of applications should be cross-subsidized by the municipal levy. And then ultimately to do a fee review with our partners, Rideau Valley and South Nation, with all of you to make sure that we're comfortable with a reasoned fee schedule going forward. This is not going to happen for 2024. There's no way this can happen in the next few weeks, but this is something that we have on our work plan for 2024 to hopefully implement in 2025.
Questions? Glenn?
Whoops, I think I'm unmuted now. Okay, there we go. Yeah, in the background of the document, it says there's an expectation that we will employ user fees and other sources of funding where appropriate. Does our policy speak to a certain level, a certain ratio of user fees versus other funding sources, or how is that generally applied?
Last year, we did bring forward, or earlier this year, I've lost track of time, but anyway, the new regulation required the board to approve a fee policy. And in the fee policy, it doesn't have a percentage per se. It has various goals and objectives, including, to cost recover as great as possible, but also balancing equity, and affordability. So, it recognizes there are conflicting or sometimes challenging, objectives that we need to marry together. So it provides for flexibility and for the board to have those kind of conversations.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at the chart and realizing these are some preliminary numbers and you're going to provide some more details soon. But like a plan of subdivision, if MVCA is only covering 30%, then it means the levies are covering roughly 70%, and City of Ottawa will be covering 90% of that, which means that a significant portion of a cost of, say, a plan of subdivision in Carleton Place is being borne by City of Ottawa taxpayers. In general, for planning fees and applications in the city, we tend to push towards a cost recovery. So I hope that we can bring these cost recoveries as close to 100% as possible. There's certainly some that really stand out. That plan of subdivision or condominium stood out to me. Some of them are more of a variance than others, but I hope we can move in that direction where the fees are covering the actual cost to deliver that service.
Yeah, Janet?
Yeah, so you mentioned potentially 2025 to sort of implement something that might be more consistent with the cost but you need to have I think the electronic timesheet system. And what's your plan for implementing that? Like how much, like I would think you would need a year of electronic timesheet data in order to get a really good base of information for your cost estimates. Thank you.
So we have had the new system in place since I think March, April. So we are, it's us learning the new system and adjusting and tweaking it. So, and that's what we're in the process of doing right now, is figuring out what's working, not working with the new timesheet system. So, you know, certainly by this time next year, we will have a full year's worth. And my goal would be at least to work with, you know, a good solid 9 months of data. Recognizing, however, that as you all experience in your own municipalities, development applications vary, you know, year over year. A plan of subdivision can come in today and it might take 5 years actually to process to fruition. So that's part of the, you know, the methodology here that we are confronted with, is what kind of assumptions you make to derive these numbers.
Anybody else? Richard?
Yeah, I just, couple things. First of all, we can when we're looking at this, I think we should be looking also at efficiencies and ways of reducing our costs for doing that service, or at least comparing it to other conservation authorities. And the other thing is, back to the subdivision, like, so I don't think you can't compare it to the pool or the library or anything else. What we're looking at are things where people are making money, and at the pool or rink or whatever, it's social activities that society decides to pay. But if somebody else, if somebody was renting the pool and then renting it out, making money, I can guarantee you Carleton Place would raise the rates. But so I just want to make sure that this is a business, and that part of it, and we should be cost recovery as close as we can. And I know that this is a step towards that, but I just think that it should be as close to 100% as possible, but also it's our job to control those costs too.
Sally?
So absolutely, I've already identified a couple of other CAs to benchmark ourselves against. I put the call out several weeks ago, and so 2 have already signed up, Quinty and Cataraqui. I couldn't agree with you more on actually, I was more looking at things like the minor variance and zoning bylaws. So there's a world of difference between a small independent looking to get a lot severed and a minor variance compared to a developer looking to do a plan of subdivision. I think that's where I would definitely see some of the conversation occurring, but you know, that's for another time.
Okay, anyone else? So my only comment is, it looks like your charge out rate is over $100 an hour.
Depending on the service, absolutely. For our engineering staff, it's essential.
Okay. All right, so seeing no other questions, that information is received as information. And we have no consent items to deal with, so I'm going to move to adjournment. Do I have a motion that the Board of Directors adjourn? And moved by Roy, seconded by Helen, all in favor. We are adjourned, folks. Thank you.